Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I would like to welcome you here today in this very, very important event. And in doing so, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as the custodians, the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. And we pay our respects to the elders, past and present. I am Andy Koranios, the CEO of the SmartSat CRC, and SmartSat has provided support to this great initiative from its inception. This work is really a national coalition of leading experts in the space and spatial communities, industry, that are committed to bringing those two industries together and grow it for the advancement of Australia. I think it's about 2 years that they've been working on this very, very important collaboration. They've been working tirelessly in consulting widely, nationally, widely, but also developing this roadmap that you see in front of you. There are copies available for you to take with you. They've been working on this so that this document can inform the space agency and also in meeting its objectives of the government objectives of tripling the industry and generating more than 20,000 new jobs in this great industry that we have. We have been working very hard on this project, and many of you, has been very much a collective effort, and many of you are here today, the authors are here today, except for one, the founder, the leader of the group, the chair of this committee, Dr. Peter Woodgate, who passed away unexpectedly the day before Christmas. Peter worked selflessly, tirelessly, and with a passion for growing the space and spatial industry, but also advancing Australia in general and really making Australia a more high-tech nation. On a personal side, Peter was not only the founding pillar for the bid for the SmartSat CRC, but also its inaugural chair. And for me, he was very much a guide, a mentor, and a friend. And we lost Peter. We will miss him sorely. So today's event is, at least for many of us, if you like, a poignant acknowledgement of Peter Woodgate's contribution to this effort and generally to Australia, I think you will agree. Ladies and gentlemen, we are both honoured and delighted to have here both the co-chairs of the Parliamentary Friends for Space, the Honourable Steve Yorganas, and the Member of Adelaide, and the Honourable James Stevens, the Member of Sturt. We are delighted that you are here, and of course, we're also delighted to have the head of the Space Agency, Mr. Enrico Palermo, who will later receive this document from the acting chair, Glenn Cockerton. I think what I'd like to do now is invite Steve to say a few words, and then James and the other speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andy, and good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the land that we meet on today is the land of the Ghana people, and we pay our respects those past, present and into the future. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be here. It's a great pleasure to be here at this wonderful centre that is full of innovation, innovation for the future. And I'm sure my co-chair, James Stevens, who is the member for Sturt, and we co-chair the Friends of Space in Parliament together with us, just as excited as I am, and we'll hear from him shortly. But there's a lot of excitement in the Federal Parliament, a lot of excitement about this particular group that we've set up. There's many groups that get set up in the Parliament, friends of everything from manufacturing to friends of health, etc. But this group has attracted one of the biggest memberships that we've ever had in the Parliament, and within days of putting out the notice. And that's because as members of Parliament, as politicians, as people that write the legislation that is there not just for today, but for the future of Australia, we know the role, an important role that this industry is going to play. And as I said, it's not just the role it's playing today, the role that it's played in the past, but certainly the role in the future of job creation, innovation, new technologies, science, things that we haven't even thought of today are being worked on right now, which will be developed for the future of our children and our grandchildren in South Australia. So thank you for having me here today. It's important for me to be here together with James to see the great work that you do, and of course to relay our best wishes from all the members of the group in the Federal Parliament to you and to your industry. It's also important to note that the group is headed up by two members of the South Australian Parliament. That's because we have this wonderful centre here in Adelaide, and both James and myself thought it was so important that the chairs are from Adelaide, who are close to this centre, who understand it, who see it, and who can basically liaise with it on a regular basis. And that's what our job is, to liaise with the industry and to pass back the things that are important to you and the things that you wish to see that will assist your industry back to those that make the decisions in Canberra. Just last week it was announced that South Australian, exciting things are happening. Only last week it was announced that the South Australian woman, Catherine Bennell-Pegg, will become the first female in space and the first astronaut on a mission under the Australian flag. What wonderful news. Who would have thought that 40 years ago, when man first walked on the moon, if someone had said to any of us back then that an Australian would be up there as well, we would have thought it was maybe not. And here it is. It's become reality. And it's become reality because of your industries. And what a great community we have here in South Australia promoting these type of things. You all play an integral part in creating countless technologies, advances, economic opportunities. And only today we heard the announcement of the AUKUS deal where the submarine will be built here in South Australia. And what great news. And what a great synergy this industry can have with the wonderful defence work that's taking place here in South Australia. It already is having a great relationship, but imagine the future for both industries. So I think it's an integral part creating this roadmap. This roadmap can play an important part in taking the industry to that next level. So, of course, we heard Andy speak about the roadmap, but we can't speak about it without mentioning Dr. Peter Woodgate. As we heard, he was the founder, visionary leader, and inaugural chair of the 2030 Spatial Steering Committee and Working Group. So Dr. Woodridge was a tireless advocate and champion nationally and internationally for the Australian space industries. And with his passing, this sector has lost a great advocate and a great mind. However, his vision will be his legacy. So this roadmap, I'm sure, will be considered within the wider sector development, together with you all, the universities, training providers, industry, defence, high-tech and manufacturing centres. We have the potential to create that ongoing benefits, not just for Adelaide and South Australia, but for the whole country, but also internationally. So the federal government absolutely sees the space sector as an essential ingredient for our nation to achieve greater economic complexity. And I very much look forward to doing anything I can to assure the growth of this sector, to be a voice together with James in the Federal Parliament for this sector. Congratulations on the launch of this roadmap. and I wish you and the sector a continued growth and prosperity and advancement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great words, and we are so lucky to have you and no doubt James as the co-chairs for the Friends of Parliament. Your passion shows, so that's fantastic. And you're absolutely right. There is great synergy between the deal today and space. I think that's very important. May I now call the Honourable James Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy, to you. And I too acknowledge we meet today on the lands of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and also Dr. Woodgate. And obviously we've acknowledged the seminal role that he's played in today, and a tragic loss. But this, I think, will be one of the great legacies to remember him by, because the leadership he's provided through this document today is absolutely vital for the future of this exciting sector. I acknowledge, of course, my friend and co-chair Steve Georgianis, and thank him. I'm a bit jealous of Steve because we're in his electorate today. My electorate's about 43 metres that way. So one day I'll take the Space Agency off you, Steve. But until then, we really do bring a great degree of unity, Steve and I, to federal policy making in this area. And I think everyone here would agree you want all sides of politics on a unity ticket when it comes to policy positions around the space sector, the funding decisions, and a proper longevity of Commonwealth government approach and support to space, because this is something that I don't think there's any dispute between we politicians that is an exciting industry now, but even more so into the future, and a lot of certainty from the Commonwealth, I think, is really important for your decision making. And so what we think we can achieve as the co-chairs of the parliamentary group is to make sure that over in Canberra we might have our debates and disputes about a lot of things, but we don't want the space sector and space policy to be one of them. And I think, to be fair, we had a change of government a little less than a year ago, and I would hope that people in the sector would say that we don't really feel like there's been any dramatic change to the way in which you are interacting with and receiving support from the Commonwealth government. And I think that's really important. What's also really important is this document that we're launching today, because it's great to have an industry-led process to talk about what you see as the opportunities to take the industry forward. We certainly want development in all industries, but space in particular, to be industry-led, not government saying this is what we want you to do, but you saying this is what we identify as the best opportunities for us to achieve the full potential of a sector which is absolutely going to transform our economy and, of course, is going to be the fastest growing industry across the planet into the future. And we want to make sure that here in Australia we're getting at least our fair share, but I would say more than our fair share of the opportunities from that. And that is going to be to the betterment of all of humanity, because, of course, you're a sector that are going to transform technologically and from a R&D point of view so many other sectors, and make the planet we're on a better place by exploring the great, unbelievable opportunities beyond our planet. But most importantly, we want to make sure that here in this country we're doing everything to make sure that we've got a really strong, vibrant, thriving sector. And Steve and I are very proud that we are here in Adelaide, and, you know, I'll be parochial. We want to see South Australia get more than our fair share of opportunity in Australia from that sector, and you wouldn't expect anything less from us. And so the decisions that have already been made, and the fact that we're here in Adelaide at the headquarters of the Space Agency, we're seeing things like SmartSat CRC, Adelaide-led initiatives, I think go to show that South Australia will be the centre of the space industry in our country, which hopefully will be punching well above our weight internationally into the future. And my job with Steve and all the other people that represent you in Canberra and those here in South Australia is to make sure we're supporting you to the greatest opportunity and extent that we can. And that's our commitment to you. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for what you've done by producing this roadmap, and we're committed to working with you to implement it into the future. Thank you.
Very much, James. Wonderful words, and truly we are very lucky to have you both as our co-chairs of the Friends for Space and our advocates in Parliament for this industry, the spatial and space industry. So thank you very much. May I now introduce to you Mr. Glenn Cockerton, who is the chair of the people that actually did the hard work in producing this document and this work. Glenn, please come and address the audience.
Acting Chair, pressed into service. It has been a very strong collaborative effort, I must admit. First of all, who said Adelaideans were parochial? I mean, really. I also wish to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I also extend that respect to any First Nations people who may be here today. We're here to officially launch the 2030 Space and Spatial Growth Roadmap. The roadmap is the product of an extensive, as we've heard, industry-led consultation. It's taken some 2 years in the making, and it has been developed to expand Australia's space and spatial capabilities. These capabilities provide essential data and services supporting many areas of national significance. These include land and water security, emergency management, our response to severe weather events, improved agricultural production, forestry, mining, transport, logistics, and a wide range of other industries. Protection of our environment, as well as emerging areas such as smart cities. Effectively, it underpins much of the Australian economy. This roadmap has been authored by, as we've heard, this national coalition of space and spatial people, led by Dr. Peter Woodgate. There are 9 high priority objectives that we've set out in the roadmap, together with a series of actions and what we call action champions, organisations we hope will take this roadmap forward. If undertaken, the roadmap will help ensure Australia's interlinked space and spatial industries build Australia's sovereign capabilities, maximise their intrinsic growth potential, and deliver the services critical to Australia's governments, commercial and defence sectors, and the wider community. Implemented, this national industry roadmap is not just about developing our space and spatial technologies. It is also about fully recognising that the current and potential value for Australia that arise from the intersection of the two. This value has 2 forms. First, as an important opportunity to grow Australia's economy. Space and spatial capabilities are in high demand, both in Australia and overseas, and is capable of significant growth, both in jobs and economic activity. Developed in the way envisaged in this roadmap, space and spatial will further empower a large number of industries to prosper, increase productivity, and grow with significant flow-on effects for the economy as a whole. The roadmap has a goal of establishing Australia as a global leader in the space industry, leveraging and maximising our inherent advantages. The roadmap has been developed to align with the goals set out in the Australian Space Agency's strategy. The Space and Spatial Working Group are proud to be handing over these recommendations to the Australian Space Agency today and hope that the roadmap inspires governments at all levels to take immediate action to secure the future of the space and spatial industries in Australia. If I can underpin the comments that we've made about Dr. Peter Woodgate, clearly he has been instrumental in all sorts of ways, both in terms of directly this roadmap, but a whole career spent on trying to maximise Australia's space and spatial industries. He has been a tireless advocate for space and spatial, has been involved with so many initiatives from CRCs, the SmartSat CRC, the CRC, the spatial information before that, a range of other initiatives that are just too long to mention. So his contribution has been huge, and it was with much regret that we all noted his passing. I'm sure he would be extremely pleased today to see this roadmap launched, and will take great pleasure in seeing it continue to progress into the future. Thank you very much. Let me give you a copy. Thank you. Coming over here, or do you want us over there? Thank you very much. Thank you, Enrico.
Thank you very much, Glenn. It is a tremendous honour and very proud to receive the roadmap from Glenn as the acting chair. I mean, this is a culmination of a tremendous amount of work, and I think is going to be a pivotal part as we work with the government on evolving the strategy for space in the nation. So it's absolutely a pleasure to be here. My name is Enrico Palermo, head of the Australian Space Agency. Let me also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet today, the Kaurna people, and I pay my respects to the elders past and present. And I'll give you a hint. Next week, we're going to have an announcement in this room, which is further going to look at how we can integrate First Nations talent into our space sector. So I'll give you a preview of that. It's important I also start by acknowledging Dr. Peter Woodgate. A lot has been said and I won't repeat it, but decades, he's contributed decades to the development of the space sector, precursors to the Australian Space Agency. And so we sorely miss him. We worked closely with him through the Space Industry Leaders Forum, and of course on this roadmap where we're contributed, and we're proud to be an action champion. Thanks to our co-chairs of the Parliamentary Friends of Space to be here. We need you to make sure the nation has a decadal long view of how we invest in space, how space is a priority for the nation. As a country, we've had to relearn many times that space is important, and I think we're in a new phase where space is now underpinning so many sectors, so many activities in our economy, and that's more broadly understood. Speaking to the roadmap, space and spatial industries are critical infrastructure for the modern economy. There's unsung heroes, unsung pieces of information, such as the geocentric datum of Australia. If we want autonomous cars, we want to have eVTOL. They're all interconnected. It's not just about using imagery from space. If we want to have smart cities in our nation, we need to action many of the things you'll see in this roadmap. And space is what makes it possible on a continental and a global scale, whether it's Earth observation, PNT, position, navigation, timing, and SATCOM. They provide critical foundational things for our nation and our partners in the region. And they're also important engines for economic prosperity, and I'll talk to three numbers. The US Department of Commerce has calculated that since GPS was made freely available, it's contributed over $1 trillion of value. In Australia, Geoscience Australia launched a South Plan program with a $1.5 billion investment that's going to produce $6 billion of benefits in our economy. And Earth observation has a direct impact of $280 million, but it's really where you get into spatial that we see $4 billion of impact to our economy. And that's why this roadmap is incredibly important. So I endorse the roadmap's focus on economic success, societal well-being, and national security. Space and spatial provide the tools and the data necessary to tackle some of the key challenges of our time: water scarcity, a changing environment, how we're going to reduce our emissions to net zero, and of course, our national security in a deteriorating global security environment. It was touched on, there was obviously the big news of AUKUS today, and that's a global capability that will be, frankly, it will be a technology you can't do without space connecting it and the spatial data that informs it. they're well nested, and that's why this is important. So I congratulate the committee, many here in the room, many colleagues across government on the work, tremendous amount of work. I re-acknowledge the role of Peter and look forward to building our industries together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Enrico, for your great words. And also a special thanks for your leadership of the Space Agency. Enrico, you've done a great job as the head of the Space Agency. The Space Agency is tremendously important to Australia for the reasons that you've outlined, but also for us to turn this nation into a truly high-tech nation. And can't get any high-tech than space. So thanks very much for your contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the formal part, but I'd like to thank everyone who has contributed to this great roadmap, the authors and all of the people that have made a huge contribution in the time that you've had. And of course, we've heard so much of the huge contribution that Peter Woodgate made, not only to this effort, but all to the space and spatial and beyond. And to that end, we at SmartSat are very pleased to announce today that we will establish, we already have approval by my board, to establish the Dr. Peter Woodgate Scholarship for Earth Observation and Remote Sensing. We will formally launch it in Parliament on the 21st, or actually at the Charles Sturt University campus in Parliament on the 23rd of May, and you are all invited. Thank you.